One of the best ways to apply power-ups and items effect in a game is through a dedicated player stats script. And that's exactly what we're building in this tutorial. We are continuing our subsystem series for complete beginners by creating a flexible item data system using scriptable objects and a player stat system that allow us apply item effects like movement, speed, a jump, power up, and more. This is a key step before we build our inventory system. Where we will add, track, and remove collected items. And a special thanks to Zainab for joining the higher tier membership on my Patreon page and unlocking all exclusive benefits. Your support truly helps me a lot continue creating these tutorials. Now let's dive into it. First thing we're gonna create is scriptable object script and we're gonna call it something like item data. So go over to your project app assets, right click, then go create, then go scripting and scriptable object script, and you can name it to something like item data. And I have that script inside my subfolder. You can see item data, so I'm gonna open that up by double clicking on it. So let's double click on that to open up in Visual Studio, and we can see the item data scriptable object script. Basically it's not deriving from mono behavior because we're not going to attach this script to any game object, but rather than it's going to hold up the attributes of our item data like the speed amount, the jump amount, item name, what type of item we collected, and all of the things like price of the item. And we can see that we get a square brackets, and inside this square bracket we have the create asset menu, the file name. It means that we can create this asset out of this script inside our assets folder in Unity editor. We can create right over here, and we can see the path. Firstly item data, and then scriptable objects we need to go, then item data. I'm gonna rename it to something else. Instead of calling scriptable objects, I'm gonna call it item data, and then I'm gonna call it item, just like this. And we can just go and we can create the asset out of this scriptable object script, which is our item data. And we're gonna populate some variable. We need the first thing, we need the name of the item, so we're gonna make a public string, and we can call it something like name, or we can call it something name. And if you get a green underline, something just like this, then basically put new in front of it because name variable already exists, so that is the reason. And the second thing, it's going to take the id because I want to provide the id because I just want to save my data. If I collect it, then I just want to save it. And if you don't want to save any data, then you can skip this variable, but I do want to save. So I'm going to create a public string, and I can call it something like item id, just like that. And also we need the speed amount, the jump amount. So we're gonna make a public float, and I can call it speed amount. So I'm gonna call it a speed amount, and by default I'm gonna give something like 7 unit. And also I need the jump amount, so I'm gonna call it, we're gonna press down Ctrl D to duplicate, and I'm gonna call this jump amount. And I'm gonna put it something like for jump I'm gonna give 10 unit. And also we're gonna create a enum to check what type of item it is, because I'm gonna have two item type. One will be speed and another one will be jump. So we're gonna create a enum, and to create enum we can create out of the class over here. And make sure you just type public, and then we have to type enum, and I'm gonna call it something like item type. So let's call it item type and some curly brackets. So I'm gonna have two types, so one for speed and one for our jump. So type this comma, and now we're gonna have to basically we have to type the enum over here as well. So gonna make a public, and the enum type is item type, and we can call it something like type, which can be speed and jump. Since I made it public, so I can set it through inspector. And also we need the icon of this item data, and you can skip this variable as well if you don't want to set an icon, but I do want, and I want to do it later. For now I'm just gonna give the icon, so we're gonna make a public, and we have to type this as sprite, and we can call it something like icon, and also the price amount of this item. So we're gonna make a public int, and we can call it something price, and by default I'm gonna give something like 2 unit, something just like this. And now we can just save our script, and we can just create the asset out of this script by going over to this path. So let's get back to Unity editor. Now we can create the assets. To create that, we can simply right click on assets. Let's right click, let's go to create, and in the bottom we can see item data, and then item, basically this path. Firstly item data file name, and the menu name is item data, and then item, as you can see, basically we're just going over to that. So we're gonna right click, let's go to create, then item data, then item. So I'm gonna call this item to something like speed item. This will be for speed 1, and I'm gonna drag it inside my assets folder right over here to keep it clean. And if we select our speed, go over to inspector, we can see the name and it's empty. So I'm gonna call it something like speed item, a speed item, and the IDE I'm gonna provide, and I'm gonna provide in string. So I'm gonna simply call it something like speed. Speed, and the speed I'm gonna speed amount I'm gonna leave it to 7, but the jump I'm gonna set it to 0 because this is a speed asset, this is not a jump asset, so that's why. And item type, basically the enum, I'm gonna leave it to speed, and we can just drag the icon here. And also the price, I'm gonna increase it a little bit, something like 5 unit. And now we're going to create the jump assets. So let's right click over there once again, let's go to create, go item data item, and this will be jump. So I'm going to call it jump, and I'm going to provide the name. So I'm going to call it jump item, jump, sorry, I'm going to call it jump item, and item IDE I'm going to call it something like jump. And speed I'm going to set it to 0 because this is the jump item. And enum time it says speed, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to choose jump because this is the jump. And the price I'm going to leave it to 2, just like that. Now we created these two assets, and we can use these two assets to implement inside our player, like increasing the speed of our player, the jump amount, and the stuff, just, and the list just goes on. And for that we're gonna create a script called player stats, which gonna be responsible for managing the speed amount, and once like applying the speed amount and doing all of those stuff. So I'm gonna head over to my soft folder once again. I'm gonna right click, let's go to create, then go over to scripting, then mono behavior script, because we're gonna attach this script to our player game object and call it something like player stat. So I already have the script, you can see over here. So I'm gonna open that up by double clicking on it, and we can just go ahead, and we're going to remove the update function, and the start function we can remove, but I'm going to use the start function later, so I'm going to leave it right there. But I'm going to delete this comment. And this over here, first thing, it's going to take the base speed and the base jump amount. So we're going to make a two variable, and we're going to make a public float, and we can call it something like base speed, or you can think of this will be the default value of our player. So base speed, and by default I'm gonna set it to 5 unit. And also we can press down Ctrl D to duplicate, and this will be our base jump. So let's call it base jump, and base jump I'm gonna leave it to 5 unit as well. And we're gonna make two variable, and this variable will be private, and this variable just gonna keep the current speed and the current jump of our player. So we're gonna make a two variable, so we're gonna make private float, and we can call it current speed. Let's call it current speed, and we're gonna close that up with semicolon, and let's press down Ctrl D to duplicate, and we're gonna call this one current jump. So let's call it current jump, and we can go over to start function, and we can set the current speed equal to our base jump, and the current jump equal to our current speed we can set it to base speed, and the current jump we can set it to base jump. But I'm gonna make a function for it separately, and I'm gonna call it something like reset stat. So we're gonna make a variable, and we're gonna mark this we're gonna make a function, and we will mark this function public as public, because we're gonna call it through other script. So we're gonna make a public void, and we can call it something like reset stats. Let's make first bracket and some curly brackets, and now we're gonna set our current speed and the current jump. So we're gonna set our current speed equal to our base speed, and we're gonna set our current jump equal to our base jump, just like that. Now I'm gonna call the reset function inside this inside this start function. I'm gonna call it, so let's call it the reset, which is our reset stat function. And now we just set it, and now we're gonna make a function in order to apply the value or the power ups in our player. So we're gonna make a function for it, and we can call it something like apply effect. So we're gonna mark this function public void, this will be public void, and we can call it something like apply effect, something just like this. And this function just gonna take a parameter, and that will be item data, because we need to check if we collected the item data, and we need to add the speed amount and the jump amount to our player. So it's gonna take the item data, because we need to check that we need to make sure we increase the value. So what we will do, we will go to our current speed now, and top of that we can just add the amount. So we will go to our item scriptable object script, and then basically the asset, and now I'm gonna access the speed amount, basically adding the speed amount. And I'm gonna do the same thing for our current jump. So let's go to current jump, and top of that plus equal, we will go to item asset, and then I'm gonna add this the jump amount, something just like this. So what we simply doing, we basically going over to this item data scriptable object script, and we accessing the speed amount and the jump amount, and we just adding top of our current speed, and we just call it the reset start inside this start function. It means the current speed equal to base jump, which is 5. So this current speed is 5, and top of that we just added the speed amount, which we said, if we select our speed asset, we can see the speed amount is 7. So this current speed is 5, so 5 plus 7 will be something like 12 unit. It means the current speed will be 12 unit once we're gonna call out the function in order to apply. And now we're gonna make two function, because we made this variable private, we can see. So in order to use the value or the parameter that we added top of our current speed and the current jump, we're gonna use a getter method. So we're gonna make a public, instead of typing void, we're gonna type float, because we need to get the value, we need to get the current speed value and the current jump value, so we can add top of our player. So we can call it something like get speed, and let's make first bracket and some curly brackets, and we need to return the current speed. So we're gonna type return and the current speed. Let's we call the apply effect function. Then this current speed is 5, so 5 plus 7 will be something like 12, and we returning the current speed, which is 12 unit. So the get speed right over here, it's gonna return us 12 unit, and we can just multiply that 12 unit with our player movement. And now I'm gonna do the same thing for our jump. So we're gonna make a public float, and we can call it something like get jump, and we need to return the jump. So let's return the jump. So let's return equal our current jump, just like that. And let's close that up with semicolon. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a singleton pattern of this class, because we don't want to use the find any object by type or something like that. So that's why we're gonna make the a singleton pattern. And to make the singleton pattern, just come at the top of your class and make a variable, and the variable type will be as the name of our script, which is the player stat. So we're gonna make a public static with typing. Basically we just want to access any parameter from this class without basically using the find object by type or something like other. So we can access any parameter or any function directly by typing name of the class. So we're going to create a variable as the name of our player class. So we're going to make a player stat variable, the class name variable you can simply say, and we can call it something like stats, or I'm gonna call it instead of instance. I'm gonna call it something like that. And now we're gonna use the awake function. So let's include the awake function, and this awake function get called right before our start function, and it's called just only one time. So in the start of the game or in awake function, we just want to check if that if we have multiple instances of this class, that means we need to destroy that one. And if there is a no instance of this class, then we have to set this class as a new instance. So we're gonna use the if condition in order to check, and we will check over here if instance equals to null. Null means there is a no instance of this class. Then we're gonna set instance equal to this. Let's suppose, sorry, instead of those it will be this. And let's suppose there is a already instance of this class, then we're gonna destroy that one. So we're gonna make else if there is a already instance of this class, then we're gonna destroy that one. So we're gonna use the destroy function, and we're gonna destroy this dot game object. If there is already instance of this class, then we're destroying. And now we can just type this class name, and then we can access this instant parameter, and by this instant we can just access any function that we want to access. And that's firstly I'm gonna make the player speed a little bit less, and the jump height as well. So the jump height, I'm gonna choose something around 4 unit, and the move speed I'm gonna choose something around 4 unit, just like that. And now we're gonna attach our player stat script to our player game object, because we want to apply the effect inside this player. So we're gonna click on this add component, and I'm gonna attach my player script there, player stat script there. And player stat, and we can see the base and the base jump value and the base speed. And what we need now, we need to open up our player script, because there we just moving our player, and we need to make sure we just replace the move speed that we created over here and the jump height with our getter method that we created inside our player stat script, which is the get speed and the get jump, to get the current value of our the current speed and the current jump. So now we're gonna open up our player script, and the first thing, we need a reference to our player stat script. So let's grab the reference, and after that we can just modify the speed and the jump height. So we will go to top of our class, and let's grab the reference, and I'm gonna make it somewhere in the bottom, and it doesn't need to be public. So we're gonna make a private player stats, and let's call it something like stats. And we created the single pattern inside our player's stat script. We do know, we can see right over here. So we can just grab the player stat script by the instance. So let's go to player script once again, and let's go to start function, and we're gonna set our stats, basically the player stats script, equal to this will be stats equal to player stats. Let's access the instant, and now we need to modify where we moving our player. So we moving our player over here. We can see we just pass the movement and the move speed over here. Instead of doing that, we will go to player stats script, basically the stats, and now we're gonna use this get speed function. And this get speed function right over here, it's gonna return us the current speed, which can be 5, and if we collect any item then it's gonna be something around 12, as I have explained it earlier, just adding the value. And we're gonna do the same thing with our jump. So we making the jump. So let's go over to jump function, and rb dot linear velocity we setting equal to velocity. As you can see, instead of setting velocity, sorry, and not velocity, basically the jump height over here in the y. So we will go to stats scripts, which is the player stats, and now we're gonna use this get jump, and let's make first bracket, and that's it, all we have to do, and it should work fine. And we're gonna check it out. And before I check it out, so I'm gonna explain one more time. So we simply going over to this player stats script, and we basically accessing this get speed function, which is returning our current speed, which can be 5 in unit. But if we collect any item, then we just call this apply effect function, then top of our current speed we just is adding the speed amount, and we set 7 unit, we do know, and the current speed is something like 5, as we set with our base speed, which is 5 unit. So that's why this current speed is 5, and top of that we just adding the speed amount, which is 7. So 5 plus 7 will be 12 unit. It means this current speed right over here, it's gonna be as a 12 unit. So this gate speed over here, it's gonna return us a 12 unit. So this one right over here, if I go over to my player scape and go to my movement over here, stat dot get speed, so this get speed just gonna return us 12 unit. So this over here will be 12, and 12 into movement, which is 1, 12 into 1 will be 12 unit. So it means our player will move left and right with 12 unit. Now we're gonna create a script in order to call out this function from our player stat, which is the apply effect. So our player just gonna move a little bit faster when we're gonna collect the red and the green gem. Basically you can see in the game view. So we're gonna attach the script to this red and this heart. So just go over to your asset once again, right click, then go to create and go mono behavior skip, and name to something like trigger effect. I already created the script, and I'm gonna attach that script to my this red gem. So I'm gonna select any of them. So let's click on add component, and I'm gonna add the trigger effect script there, and let's open up. And this function basically just gonna apply the effect. Basically we will call out the function from our player stat. So we can remove the update function from here. So we're going to remove the update function, we don't need, and also this comment, but we do need a reference to our assets. Basically if I go to my assets folder and this assets, inside this shop folder I can see that I have created 2 assets. So we need a reference to each of these, or basically of these reference these assets, so we can access the jump amount variable and the speed amount variable that we assign it in the inspector. So we need a reference first. So let's go to top of our class, and let's make a variable for it. So we're gonna make a public, and that is a item data, basically the assets, and we can call it something like item assets, or I'm gonna simply call it assets item, sorry, item, just like that. And also we need a reference to this player stat script, so we can call out this apply effect function. So let's grab the reference, and we're gonna make a private parameter for it. So we're gonna make a private player stats, the singleton that we created, and I'm gonna call it something like stats. And let's go to start function, and in this start the game I'm gonna set stats equal to let's type the class name, which is player stat. Then we're gonna access the instant. Now we can see we have the player stat script reference. And now it's time to trigger the effect. And to trigger the effect, we're going to use this on trigger enter 2D function. And this function get called when we trigger with something. And before you just use this function, make sure you go to Unity, select your collectible items. So if I select any of them, and make sure you edit a collider 2D, any collider 2D, and also you check this is trigger as check. So that's why we're gonna use that function. And also you have to ensure you select your player and assign with the player tag. Basically click on untag and assign with your player tag. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna check. So we can use this collision parameter in order to check what we trigger it with. So this function get called when we trigger with something, and we're gonna use the if condition in order to check what we trigger it with. So we will go to collision dot game object, means the game object that we trigger it with. So in our case that will be player. And now we're gonna compare the tag. So we're gonna use this compare tag, and inside this we need to put inside quotation the tag which is player that we're looking. It means the red gem just triggered it with our player. It means we are ready to apply the effect. So let's go to stat script, and now we're gonna use dot apply effect function. And this apply effect function, we can see it's gonna take the item. So we're gonna put this item that we created in the top. So make sure you just grab the item assets, basically go to top of your class and make a variable for your item data. And now I'm gonna put the item there, and after applying the effect, I just want to destroy the red gem itself. So we're gonna use the destroy function, and now it's gonna take the game object. So we're gonna pass this dot game object, means the red gem itself, or we're gonna attach this script to our heart as well. So this dot game object over there, it's gonna be also this heart if the heart just trigger with our player. Now we just have to save our script. Now we can see trigger effect, it's gonna take the item assets. So if we collect the red gem, then I just want to increase my jump. So I'm gonna take my jump assets, I'm gonna drag it over to that slot. But if I collect the heart, this one right over here, then I want to increase the speed amount. So we're gonna attach the trigger effect script first. So let's click on add component, and we're gonna attach the trigger effect script. And now I'm gonna take my speed assets, let's drag it there. And also what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna increase the player jump unit a little bit up. So I will go to my player stat script, and base speed I'm gonna make it something like I'm gonna leave it to 5, and the base jump I'm gonna make it something around 12 unit, or let's make it something like 18. And I will go to overrides and then apply all if I turn it my game object into a prefab. Sorry, we will select our player, let's go to overrides and then apply all. And I have to make sure I attach the script to this second red gem as well, just like that. And now if I try to move left and right, we can see we moving, and I'm gonna jump. And we can see by now we can jump more unit. We can see we jumping a lot. And if I collect the heart, we can see that we moving way fast. So this is the thing, and I hope you get the idea that how you can do it. And one thing, we getting a problem that if we collect more red gem, then we moving more faster. So we need to stop doing it, and we're gonna create a inventory manager script in the next tutorial. So that is the thing, in order to avoid more speed. Like if we already collected the red gem and we just increase the value, and if we try to collect the second red gem, we're increasing the value more, which we really need to stop. So I hope you get the idea. That's why we're gonna create an inventory manager script, and we will do it in the next tutorial. So goodbye for now. I will see you in the next upcoming tutorial in this series, which is how to make shop manager.